Okay, so let's start with lecture. In today's lecture, we will be discussing wireless and mobile networks. Okay, so this is very important lecture in terms of learning wireless technologies and especially how mobile networks do work. Can anyone tell, for example, most probably you would be using mobile company of your own country, or are you taking new SIMs here? Are you using your mobile company, same mobile company that you were using, same SIM, or you are just using new SIM here for your mobile? New? Okay, new SIM. Okay, okay, then it's obviously different story, but you know that you can use your own SIM in anywhere in the world, but obviously roaming charges and all the stuff, they are expensive. But still, just imagine within a country, if you are living in the north and then you are traveling and then you are going in the south and someone in the north is calling you, how your mobile company will know that you are not in the north but you are sitting in the south? Any idea? Like how they will detect you, in short, in simple words? Like you know that because there would be one tower or antenna to which you are connecting, right? And obviously it has some range, 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers, right? And you are keep changing. For example, you are going in a car or something in a high speed train. Then how whenever someone is calling you, they immediately can get you and you can talk? How does it work? Your mobile networks. Any idea? Any idea? Rough idea, guess idea. Obviously, it's very interesting, right? Because there are thousands or hundreds of thousands of users for one company. And obviously, it's not possible for a company to track each and every user, right? Like how they will find it, okay, this person is not in Galway right now, he or she is in Cork or Limerick or some other city. But there wouldn't be any delay. Like if you call me just like sitting in front, almost it will take same time as compared to the time if I was sitting in Dublin or somewhere else. Almost same time, more or less. So we will discuss this thing, how this mobile networks work in today's lecture. And same is the case with wireless technologies. This is a Wi-Fi router. So wireless, usually when we say in terms of the internet, it's a local area networks wireless, but this mobile networks and they are also wireless because you are connecting with your company's antenna or tower through wireless connection, right? So in today's lecture, we will see this wireless technology. In the last lecture, we would be discussing some advanced topics of networks, which is cloud computing. So that would be a last topic of our this module. Okay, so we can start. Okay, you can see. So background is that like number of wireless or mobile phone subscribers, obviously they are now exceeding as compared to wired phone subscribers. Okay, obviously 20 years ago the story was different, but now no one is getting wired phone or something, right? And this ratio is 5 to 1 now, and even it's keep increasing every year. So for every 5 new mobile phone subscribers, companies are only getting 1 wired phone subscribers. And number of wireless internet connected devices are almost equal to the wireline internet connected devices. Okay, so we have to study this sort of thing. It means that now wireless people who are using wireless technologies are equal to the people who are using some sort of wireline internet connected devices. Okay, so it means that in terms of your business plan, you have to take care of this data, you have to take care of this stat, that if you are going to build some application, you have to consider people who would be using wireless technologies. And because of wireless technologies, obviously we would have different challenges as compared to the people who are using or who would be using wired internet devices. Okay. So important challenges, one important challenge is obviously wireless, that communication over wireless link. Okay. So it means that the capacity or bandwidth would be different, right? So similarly, the important thing is mobility, like how we will handle if one mobile user is keep changing its point of access or point of attachment to the network. Okay. So this wireless communication link and mobility is the main thing that we would be discussing in this lecture. And in terms of application, we should consider these two factors. So elements of a wireless network are quite similar. We discussed this thing many times, that we have network core and network edge. And obviously on network edge, we would have wireless hosts, right? It could be laptop, it could be a smartphone, and they would be running different applications. They may be stationary or mobile. Okay. So wireless does not always mean mobility. Okay. So for example, if your sensors are transferring some data over the wireless, they are wireless technologies or they are wireless devices. Okay. For example, your temperature sensor, you have fixed your temperature sensor and it's using some wireless technology to send data. So it means that they are stationary, but obviously because of using wireless network or wireless infrastructure, we would be consider them that devices as a wireless devices. Okay. So mobility is not a condition that every wireless device should be in some sort of motion or something, right? So this is wireless host. Then we have base station. This is very important. Okay. So typically connected to wired networks. So in this class, you can see we have wireless router. So this is a base station. Okay. For us. And for mobile users, company's tower or antenna would be a base station. Okay. And this base station typically connected to wired network. So behind the base station, it would be definitely connected through some wires with some other bigger network. Okay. So it will relay responsible for sending packets between wired networks and wireless hosts in its area. Examples could be cell towers or IEEE 802.11 access points. So this is 802.11 access point. Technical name of this Wi-Fi router is this one. So in the picture you can see that like this is a cell tower or antenna of particular company, any mobile company it could be, or some other companies, right? And they are connected through some wired infrastructure to the network infrastructure. And then it's very easy. From here, it would be connected with some router, and then through router, it will be connected to the whole world, right? It's very easy to set up this sort of thing. So as a manager or as a IT person or BIS person, you should know that, okay, if you have to set up something in terms of wireless technologies or in terms of some network infrastructure, you should know that, okay, what would be the important parts of this network. Okay. So wireless link typically used to connect mobiles to base station, also used as a backbone link, multiple access protocol coordinates link access, and various data rates, transmission distance. So it depends also on transmission distance. You know that when you are very away from your company's cell tower, right, data speed is little bit slow or something, because you would be getting only 2 or 3 signals, right? So this is one of the reason is that because of transmission distance. If you are closer to the antenna, this one, right, then obviously it would be getting more bandwidth, or the transmission data rate speed would be different. Okay. So these are some characteristics of some selected wireless links, and on y-axis you can see this is a data rate in megabits per second, and this is a distance, and here you can see that this is basically wireless protocols or standard, IEEE standard. In LANs nowadays we are using this one, 802.11. This NAGB are the variants of these wireless protocols or standards. We will discuss later on what's the difference, but easily you can see that almost its indoor capacity is almost same, but the only difference is in data rate, right? Speed, bandwidth. So like the latest one or .11 and nowadays it's 200 megabits per second. Okay. In terms of mobile networks, you can see it was like 2G. GSM, like we can make calls on mobile phones by using this 2G technology, GSM, and it was possible in 2002 or something. Okay, so you can see like it only hardly 20 years for mobile networks or mobile phones. Otherwise people would be using at that time only wired phones to call each other. Okay, so this mobile networks are not very old technology, just 20 years old. So but the problem with this thing was obviously data rate was very slow in KBS, 56 KBS or 0.05 megabits. Then we have 3G, right? 3G make it possible because speed was around 4 Mbps, and after 3G it was possible that people can use mobile data on or internet on their mobile phones, and it was not very old. I think it's 12 years or something, or hardly 20 years. It was proposed 20 years ago, but yeah. Then in 2008 or something, 10-12 years ago, there was 4G, right? And nowadays you can see or you have heard 5G sort of thing. So the sort of difference between 5G and 4G is this bandwidth. Okay, so 1000 megabits per second is the bandwidth for 5G sort of thing. Okay, so this is up to 200. So 1000 or 1 gigabits, you can say that. In terms of distance, coverage is almost same, like antenna or that cell tower can cover around 5 to 20 kilometers long range outdoor. Okay. So these are the different characteristics of different wireless networks. So these are the mobile networks and they are wireless local area networks. So we will discuss this thing one by one. Okay, so you can see in 1991 2G was introduced, and obviously at that time only call or SMS was possible, and it was very, very expensive. You might not know that, like, or might be it would be interesting for you that if you have to listen someone calls, you have to pay also. Can you imagine nowadays that someone is calling you and you have to pay for that as well? So at that time it was so expensive. I remember even nowadays that SIM cards are free, but at that time SIM cards were not free. You have to pay, like, obviously I cannot say that amount because obviously devaluation of money or something, but at least let's say at that time you have to pay 50 or 100 euro just for same price, one SIM. Okay, and obviously for 1 minute listening of someone's call, most probably you have to pay 1 euro per minute. You have to pay. Obviously the person who would be calling would be paying 2 euro per minute charges, but so because at that time infrastructure was very limited and cost was very high. So in 1998, and obviously we know that the internet was introduced in 1996. So after 2-3 years, 3G was introduced, but obviously it was not fully functional, or it was not approachable, or you can say affordable in other terms, till 2002 or 2005 something. So 3G so in 2G we can only send SMS, and obviously we can call through other people, okay. And in 3G we can SMS, other than SMS we can use internet, okay, in 1998. Then in 2008 4G was introduced, and because of 4G people can use internet, and because of high speed sort of thing, they can stream videos, or they can see YouTube or some other videos over the internet. So this was because of 4G. And in last year or 1-2 years ago, 5G was introduced, and obviously you can see its speed is 1 to 10 gigabits per second, high speed. And because of this, very new technologies are emerging. One very important thing is Internet of Things, IoT devices. Now you can see, you can install your network devices in your air conditioner, right? I can control my air conditioner just sitting in here, and I can turn it off or on my air conditioner at home, right? This is because of this 5G sort of thing, like Internet of Things. And obviously people are working on smart cities. For example, if you are driving at Galway, and if traffic is stuck somewhere, because of this 5G or smart cities concept, is that you can instantly know, okay, this junction is blocked for last 10 minutes. So I can take some alternative route or something, right? So because of 5G, and obviously we are generating so much data, and it's because of this 5G, obviously internet has different aspects as well. Smart cities concept is there, like every device would be connected to the internet, and they would be sharing data. Same is the case, they can install, here there are some insurance companies who install devices in your car. I have that thing because it has benefit, until and unless if you are not over speeding or doing bad things. Constantly they send reports to the insurance company, okay. So if advantage is that if you are like driving safely or something, your insurance would be very, very less. But obviously if you are driving not good, or over speeding, or braking, pressing hard braking or something many times, it means that there is something wrong with your driving skill, some sort of, and obviously your insurance rate would be higher. So because of 5G we can think different things, and smart cities concepts are very famous nowadays. In US, so many companies are working on IoTs, Internet of Things, okay. Edge computing is there, and edge computing is also a new emerging field of networks. Edge computing is simply that making devices capable of taking decisions, so that and these devices would be connected to clouds. Obviously this small sensor cannot make decision quickly, right? So one small sensor, but if that small sensor is connected to the cloud, obviously we can compute something very quickly on the cloud, and then this send results back to the sensor, and then this sensor can take very quick decision. It could be anything. For example, one small camera of face detection at the airport, right, of detecting some criminals or some other people, right? So it is possible. So edge computing is there, Internet of Things are there, and I think in next many years this internet would be tilting towards Internet of Things, right? And same is the case with edge computing. You can make different things. Like one example could be, I know companies who are selling ice creams, they do transfer ice cream on a truck, right? and shopkeepers always complain that this ice cream, we got this ice cream and it was melted, for example. Because if there was, obviously not in this country, temperature is not high, so we cannot expect that the ice cream would be melted even in the freezer or something. But in countries where there is 40 or 50 Celsius temperature, and obviously if there is some issue with the freezer or something, it can melt, right? So the easiest solution was that, like, install sensor in a truck, and obviously this sensor would be connected through internet, and whenever, very simple, very cheap solution, hardly it will cost per truck might be 10 or 20 euro expense. So that temperature sensor is connected to the internet through internet, and whenever particular temperature, it drops from particular temperature, for example, the minimum temperature of this truck freezer should be, for example, -10, and if it goes to -9 or -8, increase obviously, then it can send one message to the manager of that company that this particular truck freezer is not working properly, or its current temperature is above the minimum temperature or something, right? So this sort of thing can solve many problems of the businesses. Now, if manager knows, okay, there was no problem in my company's freezer, then obviously shopkeepers are lying. Obviously, they would have some problem in their own freezers or something, right? Or there's some sort of thing. So you can think multiple problems nowadays which can be solved through internet. So in this course, we try to focus on getting some information about the internet, but the main goal is that, like, we should think how this internet can help businesses, how this internet can solve problems for businesses. And it's still a lot of things remaining to do, like might be only 1% problems of businesses or industries are solved, but 90% are still unsolved, and which can be solved through internet or some sort of similar technologies. So elements of a wireless network, so we have infrastructure mode. Basically, this base station connects mobiles into a wired network, okay? And handoff is that mobile changes base station, providing connection into a wired network. So for every big mobile company, after their antenna or cell tower, it would be connected with some wired network, okay? So this is very important. So ad hoc mode is also there. No base stations, nodes can only transmit to other nodes within link coverage. And this sort of solution is that you are making some sort of temporary network, okay? So for example, I know one, because we provided one solution to one organization, and it was some sort of army or security people. And you know that if they are doing some operation in some remote mountains, they cannot expect wireless networks or any sort of networks, right? But they can make their own network, wireless network, and they can transfer their information with each other. And then obviously one node can be connected to the actual network, and if they want to transfer that data to the rest of the world or someone sitting in some other part of the country, they can transfer it. So it is possible. So this is ad hoc mode, like in which we don't have any sort of base stations. All the machines are transmitting data directly with each other according to the coverage. So wireless LAN, this is wireless LAN. It started from 802.11b, and it's a standard by IEEE, and initially its spectrum or its bandwidth was 2.4 to 5 gigahertz, and obviously it's a very cheap solution as compared to other solutions. I have one other slide. So here we have pros and cons of different wireless standards, okay? And obviously this G is the latest one, right? Even the G is Wi-Fi 3 even. It's not the latest one, in fact. So we will discuss this 802.11b is a Wi-Fi 1, okay, Wi-Fi 1, and then A, okay, it's not alphabetical like it was introduced earlier as compared to A. So, but after that they realized that, okay, we should go with some sort of alphabetical orders. So this is Wi-Fi 1, and lowest cost, signal range is good and not easily obstructed. And obviously it has some drawbacks. Slowest maximum speed, home appliances may interfere on the unregulated frequency band. This is Wi-Fi 2, 802.11a, okay, and fast maximum speed, regulated frequencies, prevent signal interference from other devices. Highest cost and shorter range signal that is more easily obstructed. And then we have 802.11g, which is Wi-Fi 3. In most of the Wi-Fi standards nowadays, people are using this Wi-Fi 3. We do have Wi-Fi 6 as well, 4, 5, 6, but it's mostly in the research point of view, and they are evolving. They have some issues, but obviously they are fast as compared to 802.11g. And so this is Wi-Fi 3, 802.11g. Fast maximum speed, signal range is good and not easily obstructed. But obviously it's in terms of cost, it is more expensive than 802.11b, and appliances may interfere on the unregulated signal frequency. So we can say that this 802.11b is a main protocol for wireless, and then these are the variations or upgradation of these, but 80-90% of the things are same, okay. So but they increase different sort of things, format is different, but they are taking main points from here. So the latest one is nowadays is Wi-Fi 6, 802.11ax, and people call it as Wi-Fi 6, and it was available in 2019, and its speeds is around 10 gigabits per second, so very high speed. But good thing is about this thing is it uses less power, more reliable in congested environments, and obviously they sports better security. So this is 802.11ax. So in terms of LAN architecture, local area networks, right? So we have basic service set, this one, BSS1. You can imagine this network as a BSS1, and all the devices that are connected to the second Wi-Fi router or base station as a BSS2. And then this would be connecting to some hub, switch or router. And in the previous class, I have shown you that this Wi-Fi router is connected to the switch, right? Wired. You can see even wired is there, still wired is there. So you can imagine this is your class Wi-Fi router, and this wire, it's connecting to the switch. And obviously from switch, it would be connected to some router, NUIG router, and then this router would be connecting to the internet. So components of cellular network architecture, very similar to the wireless LAN. So if in terms of cell towers or for example mobile companies towers, right, they would be connecting with mobile switching center, okay, widely they would be connecting with some mobile switching center, and this mobile switching center would be connected with public telephone network, okay. By this way, that's why you can easily make a call to someone who is using landline number, because that landline number would be connected with public telephone network, right? And same is the case, someone is calling from a landline can talk to a person who is connected with or using mobile phone, okay. So this mobile switching center would be connected to a public telephone network. So cell covers geographical region. Obviously geographical region means this cell or this tower antenna would have some range, okay? And then base stations, then mobile users attached to network through BS, base station, this is a base station, and air interface, physical and link layer protocol between mobile and base station. So then we have mobile switching center. It connects cells to wired telephone network, okay? Manages call setup and handles mobility. So we will discuss later on how it will handle mobility if one user is connecting here, and after some time if it's connecting with this mobile switching center, how this network will know that I should connect this person's call to this mobile switching center, okay? So this is wired network. So we will discuss this 2G voice network architecture and then we will take a break. So for example, this person is using a mobile phone and obviously it would be connecting with this base station system, right? And then this base station would be connecting with this one, and then we have some sort of gateway. Gateway would work just like a router in networks, okay? And this router would be, or gateway would be connected with public telephone network. So these are the different base transceiver station, BTS, base station controller, this one, and then mobile switching center, this one, okay? And obviously this is a mobile subscriber. So this is the main architecture of mobile network, okay? So which is very quite similar to the networks, wireless networks, or even like we have switches sort of thing and we have router sort of thing, but obviously in terms of terminologies they have different names, gateways or MSC sort of thing or BSC. So we will see how, and now you can see by this way we can transfer voice, right? This mobile, by using your own mobile phone, you can simply transfer your phone. And this, for example, if you want to connect with someone else, obviously same architecture would be applied to that person as well, right? It would be connected to some public telephone network. So your voice would be transferred very easily by these switches or gateways to this public telephone network, and then obviously it would be connected to the end user or the person who you would be calling. And if you want to, can anyone tell how I can add data in this picture? For example, this person in a car is using or watching some video on a YouTube. How is it possible to send data over this network? Any idea? No? Okay. So we can take a break. So go and take some coffee or something and think about this thing. Come back and then we will discuss. Okay, so 10-minute break. So any idea about what would be the difference between this 2G and 3G? Because in 2G only voice was possible, right? People can send SMS or they can make calls in 2G, but in 3G data transfer was also possible, and we know that this data transfer would be through public internet network, right? So can anyone tell how we can add internet in this picture?
Has to be some ISP, like internet service provider, I guess,
Yeah,
somewhere.
okay. So obviously, we wouldn't be changing this sort of thing because in 3G we do require public telephone network, obviously, right? It means that we would be installing some sort of thing in parallel of this system. And this tower or this cell, definitely we require this sort of thing so that we can connect with some mobile user, right? But from here, we require some sort of network controller or radio network controller, right? So we can see in the next slide. So in 3G you can see, okay, now we have radio network controller, and it will determine, okay, if it's only a voice, then obviously it would connect with this MSC. Otherwise it will send data to some sort of router. This is a router, right? And obviously this would be providing by some company, some ISP router, right? And this ISP company router would be connecting to some bigger router, or then ultimately this would be connected to some public internet. So in terms of, so this link is for voice, this link is for data. Okay, so in parallel with existing cellular voice network. So this is cellular voice network and this is data network, and obviously for data transfer we require public internet. So if someone here wants to use YouTube, obviously it would be connecting through this mobile. Then it will decide, its radio network controller will decide about this router, this path, and then it will be getting information exactly same as if you are sitting here and try to open your browser and enter youtube.com, right? So same mechanism, like they have to select path and same layers and all the stuff.
These small houses, they are like representing servers, or
This one,
yeah, all the small.
they are basically just like regional ISPs and local ISPs sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So
The one in the mobile network.
this one,
Yeah.
actually this antenna would be connected with some radio controller network, okay?
Yeah.
So technically they are some sort of offices in which they have servers and machines,
Yeah.
and they are connected through wired, okay? This is very important. Sometimes like in remote areas, this radio network controller could be installed within the same premises. But in cities or in some other places, it is good to combine 2-3 towers with one radio network. So it depends on the geographical. For example, if you are installing your tower with in some remote area on the mountain, then obviously taking wires from there, and obviously you wouldn't be installing these cell towers in other mountains, so this would be one-to-one sort of thing, right? Because then it would be connected with this one and this one. So by this way we can easily connect to the public telephone network or public internet. And if we are connecting to public internet, obviously all the protocols would be same as we are discussing for last 10 weeks, right? So data transfer would be similar if we are transferring data from this laptop over the internet. So transmission would be same, layers would be same, but this wireless sort of thing, obviously they have some different protocol, CDMA or WCDMA, wireless collision detection sort of thing. But after that, they would be using TCP, IP or different sort of thing to send data. Now the important thing is how you can find, or how do you contact a mobile friend, right? For example, if this person is trying to find out his friend, this one, then obviously they have different options. They can search all phone books with her name, or call her parents to get latest phone number in this country or something, right? Or expect her to let you know where he or she is, right? So in real scenario, we have different situations, we have different options. But in terms of mobile networks, we have different approaches. One approach could be let routing handle it, okay? So for example, one person sitting in Australia calling me, then obviously whenever he or she would be calling me, then this routing process should identify me or locate me. So this would be routing handling it, okay? So routers advertise permanent address of mobile nodes in residence via some visual routing table exchange. Routing tables indicate where each mobile located, no changes to end systems, okay? But in terms of scalability, it is not possible that if I have millions of or billions of mobile users, if they are changing their location, just for example, if I am traveling through train, right? For example, some Euro train and it's passing through different countries of Europe, and you can imagine how many cell towers it would be crossing, and it would be very, very difficult in terms of data generation if every cell would be updating home sort of thing that this person is there, right? Or we have other options that let end systems handle it, okay? It could be indirect routing, it could be direct routing. So in indirect routing, communication from correspondent to mobile goes through home agent, then forwarded to remote. So home agent, so who is home agent? Technically, if my service provider is my home agent, okay? So if I am a user of Vodafone or some other company, 3 or something, right? So home agent is that company. So I would be telling to my home agent that I am here. If someone wants to connect me, I am not in Galway, I am in Limerick, okay? So this would be easy. They would have some central database and they would have my latest location information, and they know that how to connect me if I am in Limerick, and even if I am using someone else network on roaming or something, they do have some sort of information. So whenever someone trying to call me, call will go to the home agent. Home agent will see, okay, this person is not here. The latest information that he sent was in Limerick with this tower cell. They will connect to that or redirect my call to that tower, and it will, if I would be there, or might be I was there but my mobile can go off or something, right? So by this way route can be selected, then by this way call can be done. So it could be indirect routing, it could be direct routing. For example, correspondent gets foreign address of mobile and then sends directly to mobile. It could be through mobile agent to foreign agent and then the end user, or if home agent can tell, okay, this is the address, I can directly connect with or send communication with the end user instead of taking route from a home user and some sort of thing. Obviously, I have to connect with the foreign agent there, right? So in terms of mobility, this routing handle is not possible because it's not a scalable option, that obviously routers cannot send information of millions of users with each other, right? So we only have two options, that technically one option, that let end systems handle it. It could be indirect routing, it could be direct routing. We will see through some pictures that how this indirect routing will happen or can happen, okay? So for example, this is home network, and this one is some sort of visited network, okay? So mobile contacts foreign agent on entering visited network. So if I am visiting this network, I will tell this foreign agent that I am here, okay? Then foreign agent contacts home agent home. This mobile is resident in my network. It will tell this home network that this person is on my network, okay? So end result would be that foreign agent knows about mobile, and similarly home agent knows location of mobile, okay? So it means that they have some database here in which they would be storing the latest location of all mobile contacts. So mobility via indirect routing would be just like this. For example, if this machine wants to connect with this machine, right? Correspondent addresses packets using some address of mobile. Then home agent intercepts packets and forwards to foreign agent. And this home agent, how they will know that? Because of the previous slide, we saw that this machine has shared information about this thing, right? So that's why home agent knows, okay, how to connect data that is coming for this person to this network. So it will send to this foreign agent, and then foreign agent receives packets, forwards to mobile, this one, okay? And then mobile replies directly to the correspondent, okay? So this is possible, like instead of going here and there, it is possible that it can go directly from here. So this is indirect routing. Mobile uses two addresses: permanent address used by correspondent, hence mobile location is transparent to correspondent. Care of address used by home agent to forward datagrams to mobile. So whenever someone is on routing sort of thing, roaming, right, they do have another number, care of address, okay? But obviously we don't know that care of address, we only know permanent address. In terms of mobile networks, we can say that our phone number is our permanent address, okay? Foreign agent functions may be done by mobile itself, and it is obviously triangle routing: correspondent, home, network, mobile. Inefficient when correspondent, mobile are in same network, okay? So like you have some sort of extra routing when you are doing indirect routing. So indirect routing, moving between networks. Suppose mobile user moves to another network, so registers with new foreign agent registers with home agent update care of address for mobile. Packets continue to be forwarded to mobile, but obviously with new care of address, okay? So by this way communication can happen. So mobility, changing of foreign networks transparent, ongoing connections can be maintained. So it is possible that person is changing its foreign agent. So in terms of mobility via direct routing, so you can see this thing would be getting trying to connect with home network, and this home network will tell, okay, this is the link, this is a number, so it will directly connect with foreign agent, and then data would be coming here. So as such, there is no triangle, okay? So this is direct routing. So it overcome triangle routing problem and non-transparent to correspondent. Correspondent must get care of address from home agent. So in the previous indirect routing, there was no care of address sort of thing, but in direct routing, home agent will be sharing this sort of thing to the correspondent, okay? So even if it's new foreign agent is coming, then it's very easy to change. Like whenever they would be shifting to a new foreign network, obviously they would be updating its own network, right? Or same is the case with anchor foreign agent as well. So they will know, okay, this person is not on my network, right? So these are the components of cellular network architecture that we discussed earlier. That for voice transmission we have MSC, right? And it would be connected to some sort of wide public telephone network. So handling mobility in cellular networks is very similar to the previous one that we saw. So we have home location register. It's just a database, okay? So home location register is a database that would contain permanent cell phone number, profile information, services, preferences, billing, information about current location. So it could be in another network, okay? Visited network would have some sort of visitor location register, database with entry for each user currently in network, and they would be sharing information with each other. That's why if someone would be connecting with this home network through this database, simply database, they would know that what is the current location of the user that they want to connect it. And then obviously they can simply redirect call to the other network, and then that network would connect that particular user. So this is the same picture. So this home agent, this is a home network, okay, and it has HLR register and visitor register, and we can see simply call routed to home network, okay. So by this way they will easily find out, okay, this person is on the home network or some other foreign agent network. So any question? Is it clear how things work in terms of mobile networks? Like they have database, your company would have one database which would contain your latest location, okay? And you would be telling to your company that I am here, and you would be updating your information with the passage of time. Definitely it would have some time limit, right? After 20 seconds or after 1 minute, it depends. And whenever someone would be trying to connect with you, that company knows that, okay, the latest updated information of that person is this one, and then they will redirect that call to that location. At that location, it is possible that you wouldn't be available or your mobile could be off or something, but it depends, okay? So by this way, they can simply connect to this network and they can redirect your call to you on over this network.
But do I update my information with my phone while I'm connected to some network, or when does it?
Yeah.
Like all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because your SIM is communicating, taking signals from the tower, right?
Yeah.
You can see how many signals you are getting.
Yeah.
So technically, with the passage of time, they are transferring data with each other, okay?
Yeah.
And the important data that they are transferring is your location. And every tower would have some unique number or some sort of thing that they can get from anywhere, right? And then this tower would be sending your information to your home agent, and they would be updating, okay, this person is sitting in room 243, for example. It's very easy to locate, right? For example, you have one connection with security at NUIG main gate, and they know that, okay, this person is right now sitting in 243 room number. So whenever some visitor is coming at the gate, they can say, okay, you can go to room number 243, because the last connected information that we got about this person was that he or she is sitting in room 243, right? So by this way, routers or machines wouldn't have any sort of load. It's a duty, some sort of duty of an end user to send his or her information to the system, and then yeah, then it's easy. If we know that okay, this person is connected with this network, they know that okay, how to redirect call and how to connect with this network. They will just send data to that person. Okay, so any question? Any question regarding exams? So in exam, mostly questions would be conceptual. For example, you have to differentiate between two things. For example, TCP and UDP. For example, okay, I'm not saying. So it would be coming or not. But you have to explain these two concepts in your own words. 2-3 line difference is more than enough for that question, okay? And time is also time would also be given for that particular question. So from time you can you will definitely have idea, okay, for 5 minutes what does it mean? That okay, it means that I have to write it in 3-4 lines or 5 lines maximum, right? So yeah, so exam would be conceptual, so you should like differentiate between different things. Or for example, in wireless we discussed different protocols of like 80.11 or something. So you must have some idea, okay, what is the difference between 2 or 3, these sort of thing, or what is the difference between other things that we are discussing, okay? So no need to as such remember each and every slide, but conceptually it should be clear to you so that you can speak in 2-3 lines about that thing. You can write, okay? So we can stop here.